Live on a Reaction Monday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Bo. He is the great Z. It is Christmas week, my friend. Let's go.
Let's go. Am I on? Is this thing on? I don't have
You're
a light
on.
anymore.
Is this thing on? I'll write it. We'll do it live.
Yeah, have a macho Christmas. Yeah. Let's move this out of there so people can enjoy it.
There you go.
The splendor
How was
of
Cincinnati?
match. Cold, brother. It was cold. It was a coldest booth I've ever been in my radio broadcasting career.
Shout out to the cheap owners of the Bengals who basically turned off the heat because we took out the windows.
Hold on just a second.
That's right.
Is that real?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
8 hours. I sat
Very
in a booth that
cold.
was
Some would say
25 degrees.
water bottles were turning into ice. Yeah.
Oh, now I see. So because of various calamities with my oldest, I was unaware that you are in a macho Christmas t-shirt. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So I just thought you came out of the gates because we were up on the Zoom, and I just thought you just did the gates with Mach, and I'm like, where's Mach coming from? I mean, I love Mach, but who knew?
Beat goes on and the beat goes on. Yeah. It was so cold in there. My toes, and I wool socked it. I did the whole deal. Frozen.
I'm just praying
Hand
to God
warmers,
at this point I don't get
gloves.
sick by Wednesday. Like, it was
So
awful.
their reaction to, do you guys requested the windows out, or do you just do them yourself?
We have to call and request.
Okay. So
It depends on the state.
Am I understanding this correct? Once you call and request, they then turned off the heat to the room.
Yes.
As to not waste money.
Yeah. There was CBS. I don't believe had any heat because
Their windows are open.
I was able to pilfer some hand warmers and foot warmers.
It was
as they
nuts.
were taking them to their talent, who we could watch because we had the truck feed. We could see them like bundled up.
So what about their own broadcast?
They probably closed the windows.
Same?
I don't know if they close. Every team is different, but I mean they had to have at least one window open. I would assume.
How can you call a game without the ambient noise?
It's Kansas City.
Oh, they do it that way too?
Kansas City, you can't open any of the windows.
You can't open anything. You have to like literally plug in a cable that gets you the audio, the effects, and crowd feed.
Oh,
It's dumb.
well, that sucks.
Yeah, Kansas City, you can't. And the windows are kind of like slanted like this. Like you're kind of at a slant. So like if
Yeah.
it was open, maybe you'd fall out.
But it was like it's a great view. We've
Great
never
view.
had a problem like this before. Like I never encountered this in Cincinnati before. But it was
'cause
so
we played games
bloody
there,
cold.
It was, dude.
It was miserable.
20.
Like, we'd go into the hallway during commercial breaks.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. It was very
Was
cold.
Siciliano, I mean, he's a northern boy, but was he prepared?
He was prepared. Yeah, big guy went to Syracuse. He knows cold.
Yeah, but it's been a minute. I mean, he's living the life on the beach the last couple of
He
days.
even he had to wear the pom-pom beanie, which is not his favorite, but that thing with the fleece lining is warm. My head was not cold at all. Unfortunately, the game didn't make me any warmer. You know, it was one of those situations where it was
Can I be
tough.
honest? Can I be honest?
Depends.
I'm all in.
I mean, I'm aware of why we're doing the show.
Man, on SNL, they
I
said when
thought-
you're in the Five Timers Club, everybody can say whatever they want in there. You can be totally honest.
Say whatever they want. It was, for me, it was over as soon as we fumble inside the one.
Well,
what it felt like
unfortunately,
to me.
you fumble inside the one, and then and I'm not even sure Diabate actually was in the neutral zone on that. Nonetheless, you give a penalty, and then they go 90, at that point, 94 yards. They really went 99 yards. And, yeah, they're just
It was so deflating.
It was incredibly deflating, and it's, think about how many games have we started now where we turn the ball over early and then are down 7-0. I mean, the last 2 games in a row. Since we were, and I'm pretty sure I have this right, wasn't the final in Pittsburgh 27-14? I'm pretty sure I have that right.
That seems right, yeah.
So since we were ahead 7-3 early in Pittsburgh on the Jameis to Jerry Jeudy, since that point, over the next 11 quarters, we've been outscored 24-21, which is 45, and then this was another 24. So 69. We've been outscored 69-20 in the last 11 quarters.
Yeah.
We scored 7 points a week ago and 6 this week, which are our 2 lowest of the season. In our last 11 quarters, we've scored 3 touchdowns.
The Bengals haven't done this to anybody. Like 6 points?
No, they have not.
One of the worst.
They were giving up 27.6 a game.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati Bengals. 27.6 a game. You want to hear the full rundown of it? I'll give you the full rundown of it. I don't even need a reason.
I don't even need a reason.
The Bengals defense, I mean, and listen, it's self-inflicted wounds, turnovers. Over the last 8 weeks, we lead the league in turnovers by a wide margin. We lead the league in penalties. Those things. So one of these is not like the other, okay? And it's not like we're talking juggernauts here, okay?
No.
The New York Giants scored 7 points against them. That was the previous low. Then it was us with 14 against them, which was the second low.
Yep.
Eagles 37. This is their scores. What the Eagles have scored is 37. The Raiders score 24.
Yep.
Ravens 35. Chargers 34. Steelers 44. Cowboys 20. Tennessee Titans 27. Browns 6.
Yep. This is the other thing is we got 2 games left. We are not a disciplined football team at all. The penalties are crazy. I mean, it's been a couple of years of this. And with penalties and turnovers, we are just way too loose with both. And it's not winning football. And yes, we've got injuries that were unforeseen. A lot of people have injuries that were unforeseen. But we keep doing the same thing, self-inflicting week in and week out, and it's maddening.
Yep. So we are second most turnovers in the league right now. We've got 30 behind the Titans, who are at 32. But over the last 8 games, we are number 1 in the NFL in turnovers. And then I'm trying to pull up penalties. Let's see.
I guarantee you we're near the top.
Penalties this year, we have committed 107. We are near the top, yes. We are 7th on this. The Titans are number 1 at 120. So Titans are number 1 in both. We have the most pre-snap penalties in the NFL, though.
Yeah. So we're just not a very disciplined outfit. And when you couple that with the injuries at the positions that you have, then this is what you get. It's tough. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to know what to look forward to. The one positive that happened yesterday was the Raiders stupidly won. And so all of a sudden now, if you can lose out, you can pick 4th or better. Conversely, the Raiders now are going to be picking the 3rd quarterback in this draft.
Yep.
Because they won a stupid game against Jacksonville?
Unbelievable that they won. By the way, just real quickly, the Browns lead the NFL. I was right in this. 57 pre-snap penalties, 57. Yep. Tell me what these 2 teams have in common. Detroit and Kansas City, who together combined have 45 pre-snap penalties. Combined.
Those 2 teams combined for 3 losses.
That's right. And we have 3 wins, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing that's so hard for me to get my head around. Like,
me too.
Those are things that should be able to be cleaned up. We cannot help, but it feels like at this point we turn the ball over 3 times a game. We just can't help it. We can't help it. Penalty-wise, this one was only 5. It was 5-5, so it wasn't terrible, relatively speaking, and certainly below our average. But it's self-inflicted wounds, and then it's an inability to be elite in high-leverage situations. So what are high-leverage situations? 3rd downs, we were 3 for 12. 4th down, we were 1 for 3. And then in the red zone, we were 1 for 3 with 2 turnovers. 1 for 3 with 2 turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, you think about everything that Kevin preached when he got here. It was smart, tough, accountable.
Yeah.
And we're not particularly smart. We're not accountable with our turnovers and penalties. So
it's not manifesting itself in the product on the field. That's the thing that I think is so frustrating to you, to me, to everybody who is a Browns fan, that it's one thing if you're playing good games and you're getting beat or it's this, that, but when you are doing and unfortunately committing the same types of self-inflicted wounds week after week after week after week with no change in sight, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, at the beginning of the season, we weren't really scoring, but we weren't like turning the ball over like this. We just weren't good on offense. Right. Now it's turnovers. I mean, at the first half, I think DTR was 3 of 6 for 15 yards, and we had more sack yards than we had passing yards. Now, in the second half, I thought he made some nice throws. There was a dig to Judy that was a very nice throw. But too often, I felt like he was under duress, which is not necessarily his fault. But also, you could tell that he was very quick to process that, and he's not yet comfortable, as like as somebody who had been a starting quarterback for a while in this league would be in certain situations.
No.
And of course he's young in the game. But he was under pressure basically on 40% of his dropbacks, which is a decent amount.
But is there a common denominator between him and Deshaun versus Jameis when it comes to pressures?
So, I mean, it's such a small sample size, but
right.
Jameis is much better. Jameis is much more of a pocket passer than either DTR or Deshaun. So I do think there is some of, he maybe is a little bit farther back at the top of his drop. He doesn't have necessarily the up escapability. His escape in his mind, and similar to Deshaun's, is always to go out.
Yeah.
And around. So there has to be something to that. Here, I can pull it up.
Be.
I'll pull it up for the season real fast to see if there just like jumps out as being something that, there are a lot of factors that go into it, I'm sure. But yes, quarterback. So Jameis for the season was under pressure on 31% of his snaps. Deshaun 44% of his snaps. DTR 40% of his snaps. So yeah, I mean to me that's 10% out of 4. That's a statistically significant difference.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it is. I think you nailed it. I think that's probably is the common denominator, that Jameis hits a point and then he goes up in the pocket with eyes down and ready to throw, whereas the other two do what you just said. Miles did get to 100 sacks in this game, the youngest to ever do so before turning 29. So that's awesome. Well, more on his comments probably a little bit later on. The Chief did return and looked good. So that was good, too. And Mike Hall Jr. and Isaiah McGuire both look pretty dang good.
Mike Hall is a stud. Mike Hall is going to be a force for a very, very long time for the Cleveland Browns. I don't have any doubts about that. You've seen it enough now. The way he flashes, the dominance that he can show up at getting up the field, which in this defense is absolutely a perfect fit. It's there in spades. Isaiah McGuire continues to be a very productive young player for us. And I'll even say another one. Juwan Briggs has been very good in the middle of the defense, showing strength at the point of attack. So that's all really good. I thought Devin Bush had a great game. And Devin Bush is somebody who feels like could be in your linebacker room for quite some time. So that was good. And Devin Bush is still a relatively young player. But, you think of Mike Hall, Briggs, and McGuire, first or second year players who looked excellent in this game. And I thought that was a great thing to see. And McGuire looks to me like somebody who absolutely can start for this football team. There's no doubt in my mind that he can. I mean, I think next year, you could have your starting 4 could be Miles, Mike Hall, Dalvin, and McGuire. Dalvin's having a very nice season as well. So that to me is encouraging, what you've got there in terms of, some of that youth on the defensive line. But, unfortunately, talk about that milestone. Chief comes back, has 8 catches. That's nice. Jerome Ford, I think we should point out, continues to be impressive. 11 carries for 92 yards and a touchdown. He had 5 for 39, so he's been over 100 total yards in each of the last 2 games. DTR with his legs actually made some plays, and he had some unbelievable play extensions. I mean, the throwback across the field to Jerome Ford was wild, and then the one where he did like 3 pirouettes and then found the Chief on the sideline was crazy. But there isn't enough in rhythm. And 3 targets for Jerry Jeudy, not enough. Not enough.
No.
And you could see from Cincinnati, for T, a lot of times it was just like a quick little stick over the middle of the ball. Just get the ball in his hands. Easy plays. Just get the ball into their hands, and get them into the rhythm of the game. And I think that's, you think about this one and you think about the Pittsburgh game, we did not do a good job of that early in either of those games. Yes, he had the touchdown, Pittsburgh, but then he had one more target until like the end of the third quarter. That can't happen. You've got to scheme things up for him just to make it easy for him to get some of those plays.
Yeah, and I think, as we turn our attention, next couple of weeks and get to the offseason, this organization has a real question to figure out what type of quarterback they want going forward.
Yes.
Because that's the key to this thing. Because what Kevin's offense was versus what this version of Kevin's offense is are two very different things. And we got to figure out what type of here's the thing. DTR did fine, but I don't think he's somebody that, and this is me speaking, obviously not for the organization in any way, shape, or form. You're not going to redo the offense to make it fit his skill set.
No, and I think so many people were talking about
He's
this
a
was
backup.
an audition, but I think he's still auditioning to say, I am the backup for the next 2 years, and you're going to need to
and
see
that's great.
progress. That would be great, yes, but I still think you need to see a little bit of progress. The fact is, unfortunately, his touchdown-interception ratio is really bad. It's 1-9, and I love the kid. And he has not been able to take what we've seen in the preseason into the regular season yet. And maybe, if he starts the final three, maybe you see some signs against Miami and Baltimore. But I think right now, as we talked about, Deshaun's coming off of a serious injury for the second time in 2 years. We know exactly what Jameis is. DTR needs to show more, I think, to solidify a spot here. And then we don't know what we've got in Zappe other than the fact that, what we saw him do it with New England. I think you have to be thinking about, looking at this quarterback room, right? What do we want out of that position? How do we want to play offense? Mm-hmm. What do we want to be our bread and butter? And certainly we heard Miles had his opinion on what he wants that offense to be. Given that, what's the best fit for us, and how do we approach this? Are we a team that if Kirk Cousins gets cut, that we know he can run Stefanski offense? They did it together at a very high level in Minnesota. Is he somebody that you signed the way that like Russ signed for nothing in Pittsburgh? Is that something that you look at?
That's the first name I thought.
Is Justin Fields? I mean, do you kind of do the whole full Pittsburgh experience? Say, okay, let's get Cousins. Let's also get Fields, because after having a year with Arthur Smith, he's actually going to be pretty familiar, and the offense they ran early in the year is kind of similar to what we would run if we were running more Kevin stuff. And he's somebody that could become a long-term solution, because Cousins certainly is not. I think you have a whole look at that quarterback room, because right now, given the injury status to Deshaun Watson, and then given everything else we've seen, it's a big question mark in terms of what that path forward is going to look like.
And until you identify that path, that's job one.
That's the most important. That's the most important thing facing this organization.
The rest of it is window dressing. You have got to figure out what the path forward is, at that position, and it's made even more abundantly clear when you have a steady diet of the teams that we're seeing. We continue to play football in the AFC. We saw Patrick Mahomes. We saw Joe Burrow,
Lamar, Josh Allen.
Oh yeah, I mean just the last 2 weeks though.
Sure. Yeah.
You look at Joe and you just think of the malfeasance that organization did, like screwing this year up and not winning some of those ridiculous games they lost early in the season. Jamar Chase is right. Nobody would want to play them. Nobody.
No.
But they're not going to get in.
A competent offense probably would not be that afraid of them.
But as we talked, and Hoff talked about this last week,
but
the problem with them is, even if you are a really good offense, like Baltimore, so are they. There's the pressure to score every drive.
Were you surprised how our defense played well in the second half, but how they they really took their foot off the gas as well in the second half, it felt like.
I agree, and I think they knew that we couldn't do anything.
I will say this. I thought it was pretty fascinating at the end, and I don't know if you were aware of this or not, but Joe Burrow needed one more passing touchdown and exactly 30 yards to become the first quarterback in NFL history to have 7 straight games with 250 yards and 3 passing touchdowns. And he threw a 32-yard touchdown to Jamar Chase when they absolutely did not need to throw the ball.
I did not know the context of that.
So I thought that was interesting. I also thought, one of the things, when you're on defense, you have to play until the play is shut down. And on that play, I think Cam Mitchell thought the play was blown dead and kind of just stopped running, and it ended up being the easiest touchdown in the world for Jamar Chase and for Joe Burrow.
Yeah. Their path to get in took a bit of a hit yesterday with Indy winning. It's tough for them. They do get Denver this week, and we'll go over the AFC playoff picture in a bit. But they're in your division. Pittsburgh's in your division. Baltimore's in your division. Like, the path forward at quarterback's got to get sorted out. After we got off the air Friday, Miles had his press conference, and then he spoke post-game Sunday as well. I know that what the headlines are on it. I didn't read it that way at all.
What do you mean?
I just read it from a perspective of a guy who's like, man, I want to win.
Yeah.
I didn't view it from like, I'm demanding a trade or anything like that. I didn't read it that way at all. And a lot of the headlines I saw kind of painted it that way. I just think this is a guy at the peak of his powers who wants to hear what the plan is.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think there's much controversy to that.
Listen, the guy's turning 29 this Sunday. He is the first player in the history of the National Football League to record 100 sacks before turning 29, and had to do it in this game. His birthday is literally next Sunday, the day we played the Dolphins. Had to be done this game. Got it. And I think he is the best player on this team. Denzel is elite as well, but Myles Garrett's a Defensive Player of the Year, is the best player on this team, and I think he's saying, I need to know what the plan is. My window of being great is not open forever. Now, he reminds a lot of people of Julius Peppers, but I don't know if he'll play a career as long as Julius Peppers for a variety of reasons. His interests in a great many things. But I think he's saying, I want to make sure that I'm in a position where I can win. And I think that's what's so hard about this season is I think everybody in this building, everybody on that football team, when we went to the Greenbrier, everybody believed that this team was assembled to do one thing, to win the AFC North and then to go to compete for a Super Bowl, and we're at 3-12.
Yeah.
Which nobody saw coming.
No.
Even the most skeptical, negative person would have said, they're going to be 7-10.
Yeah.
Not staring 3-14. In the face. And at this point, unfortunately, that's better for long term than the alternative. Anybody who plays this sport, you have to play to win. You have to play all out. But at this point right now, this season is over. This season is a wrap.
Yes.
It's about evaluating, and when you say it's about evaluating, it's about putting yourself in the best position for the future, not only finding out who on your team fits that bill, but then also the positioning, because unfortunately that stuff matters.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's not just where you're picking in round 1, it's where you're picking in round 2.
No, and the Ravens with their win, they're alive. They control their own destiny, don't they? I would have to think they do.
I believe that to be true, yeah.
Because if the
At least
Steelers
in the North,
the Steelers would have clinched with a win. They lost to the Ravens, as we all know.
Yeah.
So the Steelers and Ravens have the same record right now. So, and they split 1-1. They both have one more division game to go.
So week 18, we're in Baltimore. Pittsburgh plays Cincinnati.
Cincy.
And they're going to have to schedule both of those at the same time. Will that be on Saturday? Will that be Sunday at 1?
Are there Saturday games that week?
Oh, yes.
Week 18? There are none listed.
Oh, yes.
It doesn't even say as a TBA. Are you sure?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
You are subject to play Saturday, Sunday at any time, or Monday night. All things are on the table. We won't know till Sunday evening. What day?
But how come it doesn't list anything on Saturdays?
Yeah.
Is there a Monday night game the last week?
Yes. That's part of ESPN's thing. There didn't used to be. Sunday Night Football used to be the final one. There is a Monday Night Football because now there's a Monday Night Wild Card.
Oh, God. We got to get everybody thinking on the same page with television, by the way. I mean, what a mess. What a mess Saturday was. An abject absurdity to play all that stuff. And what's going to happen on Christmas Day with all of that?
Yeah.
Like, let's all get on the same page. Let's try to do the fans a little bit of service here with it.
Yep.
That was crazy.
Yes, and unfortunately, you had 5 games that none of them really were all that compelling.
You're talking about
on Saturday.
Where you want to start? You go college football or pro?
Well, I'm saying the 5 on
game.
Saturday were never really that close. Kansas City, Houston was never that close. Pittsburgh, Baltimore was close till Russ threw the pick 6.
Yeah.
And then the college game, the Buckeyes called it, college football Nate. Hey, throw the ball to the best players on the field. Okay, we'll do that. You're up 21-0. No big deal. It's not hard.
It is. College football Nate is on a heater.
I am on a heater. Not that those are hard to go 3 for 3, but 2-2.
It's fun. This is how I would sum up the college football side of it. Do a couple minutes. The reality is there aren't 12 deserving teams in college football. College football is not reverse engineered the way the NFL is so that everyone's the same. No. College football is a class system. There are haves and there are have-nots. And yes, on a given Saturday, a team can rise up and spring an upset. But by and large, the great teams have the greatest amount of talent. And that's the way that this thing has played out this season. The reality is that Tennessee was no more deserving to play in this thing than Indiana was, or SMU was, or Arizona State, or Boise State, or the rest of them. They do not have a puncher's chance. The lines in those games, the smallest one is Ohio State's at 7.5. And that's just because people were viewing it through the eyes of what happened in the Michigan game.
Yeah.
That's it. All the rest of them. And by the way, when you go to the quarterfinals next week, Boise State are they 13.5? And I think Texas is 14.5 over Arizona State. What are we doing? There is a huge drop-off from the 4 or 5 to the next group of them.
Well,
and it wouldn't have mattered. Anybody crowing about Alabama lost to that Tennessee team.
And to Vanderbilt.
And got housed at Oklahoma, who's terrible. Terrible. And I didn't hear anybody saying, well, Tennessee didn't deserve to be there. I heard Chris Fowler on the broadcast talking about how the Indiana game wasn't as close as the final score because Indiana scored late. Brother, that should have been 56-0 Ohio State over Tennessee.
Yep.
A bogus pass interference call on the interception in the end zone that they didn't call on Jeremiah Smith.
He hugged him.
They would have walked in to go up 28-0 when he absolutely mugged him. The ridiculous roughing the passer call, which gave him another first down on a 3rd and 1, that nullified an interception. That's their first points come on that.
I got to tell you, so I haven't watched a whole lot of Tennessee football, but I came away thinking from that game being like, they never had a chance. Their quarterback can't throw the ball.
No, he couldn't read the defense.
He can run.
Yeah, and Tennessee got a garbage touchdown. It was 42-10.
Yeah, no, it was a beating.
And no one threw stones at Tennessee.
Yeah.
And you're going to go to Indiana and
a lot of people picked Tennessee to win, which was nuts.
Stupid.
I know the Buckeyes lost to Michigan, and I know that's
Buffoonery.
Their kryptonite. And in years past, they wouldn't be in the playoff. But what did I say? If they are just take advantage of the great gifts that they have at their disposal, they're going to win. They're going to win it. They're the best team left.
The 4 most talented teams at the start of this year in college football, by any measure, by everyone's measure, were Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, and Georgia.
Yep.
And Georgia's without their starting quarterback.
Yep.
So that's the reality of it. And by the way, college football did deliver. Those environments were awesome. The games weren't great because there's an incredible fall off from the most talented teams to the next group.
The funny thing is, and everybody's saying, though, and this is something that College Football Nate's been debating with people, is that they're saying, the NIL and all that has caused more of it's raised the middle up. And that may be true, but that middle is still far away from the top. It's like I always talk about using golf as an example. Somebody who's a scratch golfer.
Mm-hmm.
They are in the top 1% of all golfers on the planet. But the difference between them and an 18 handicap, while in stroke-wise isn't the same, but in terms of their ability to truly play the game, is the same difference as it is between them and Bryson DeChambeau.
Right.
So you can raise the middle all you want, but the elite is still on they're playing a different sport because they have different talent available to them.
Yeah.
It's not what it used to be in the sense that you would have those schools where you have that elite talent 4 deep at every position because now people are transferring out and going and spreading their wings like beautiful butterflies and playing everywhere. But in terms of being able to assemble a roster of that magnitude, there are only a handful of schools that can do it.
There is. And the other thing that happened last year that was incredibly affected a lot of teams is Nick Saban left Alabama.
Yep.
And so there was an exodus of talent. Ohio State got 3 of them. Texas got a couple of them. Oregon's got 1 of them. Like, some of those guys went to other places that lifted those schools. There's no question now that Ohio State was lifted by Caleb Downs and Seth McLaughlin. No question. Next year they're going to be lifted by Julian Sain. One of Texas' receivers came from Alabama. One of Oregon's receivers came from Alabama. Like, that's what happens in the sport. That coaching change. So there just aren't 12 deserving teams, and they force-fed it. And if you're looking for proof of how they force-fed it, just realize there was so little foresight into this that the college football playoffs were on TNT while ESPN showed college basketball regular season games on ESPN 1 and 2, and ABC showed the FCS 1AA semifinal games on ABC.
Yeah.
They didn't do that because they wanted to. They did it because they're contractually obligated to, because nobody thought there was going to be a 12-team playoff this quick.
Yeah.
So they had to run those games. So their talent was calling games on TNT, who does not have college football talent to do the actual games. Nobody's thought this was coming this quickly.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
I will say this. College game day on Friday evening was off the hinges. And Nick Saban is living his best life. I did not realize that all of a sudden ESPN is okay with the 4-letter bombs just magically appearing. But it was like every half hour someone was dropping
Hold on
one.
a second now.
Indiana's coach.
2 things.
Pat McAfee effect, guys. Pat McAfee.
Shane Gillis
put him in a body bag.
When he called him Alabama Jones.
Alabama Jones over here saying the SEC never paid anybody?
Yeah. And Saban's like, I tried to raise kids with integrity and make them great professionals. And he's like, okay, then it never happened. I got it. Alabama Jones is getting upset. He was great. Now, I know we all saying it's the Pat McAfeeing of sports, and like I get that. But I do think that there is somewhat, and this is going to make me sound like an old man, there's somewhat of an obligation knowing that kids are watching, like the stuff about the Buckeye fan, and I won't even say his name, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's
like the Shane Gillis stuff's funny.
I agree.
A random profanity here or there, like that's the parlance of our times. That's the lexicon of the world we live in.
Talking about someone in his underwear in mom's basement talking blank about Ohio State. You got to stop paying attention to all that.
Here, you know what?
But to me, that was the only one thing that was over the line. Was the thing that I think we would all agree was over the. That was
he should have
outrageous.
Anyone on that desk should have asked him, "Hey Nick, if you never won a national championship at Alabama, and you lost 4 straight games to Auburn, and you did not win an SEC title in 4 straight games, how hot would your seat be?"
Quite.
Why did no one push back?
Yeah.
Why did every one of these guys, Saban makes $12 million a year. It's paid for by the fans. I tell you guys this all the time. Boosters pay coaches' salaries. Boosters pays buyouts. Boosters are paying for rosters now.
Yep.
The fans are the shareholders.
Yep.
In college athletics. They're the shareholders. They're the ones paying for it. They all have Netflix. They all want Netflix boosters. Sign up, pay us $50 a month so we can pay NIL.
It's also
meantime, coaches making $12 million.
It's amazing too that, to your point, that when you disparage the fan the way that he did, the people that are calling, in many cases around the Ohio State organization, let's just call it, that are fed up, are the ones that are not in their underwear in their mom's basement. They are highly successful executives and multi-millionaires who want a return on their investment.
That's exactly right. And they're owed that because they're paying for it.
They're paying for it. That's right.
Yes. You don't have there's no payroll.
Right.
You're paying it.
Right.
Those are your hot topics today, presented by University Hospitals, official healthcare partner of your Cleveland Browns. You'll hear from Coach Stefanski coming up next. We're off and running. Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Gutter Guard to your Cleveland Browns. Go to leaffilter.com/go Browns to schedule your free gutter inspection and to receive your exclusive promo offer. That's leaffilter.com/go Browns. Visit today. Time to head to the podium. Presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience package today for the ultimate game day. Here's Coach Stefanski from the podium.
Okay, thanks, Jordan. Injury front, Dorian's working through that calf injury. I'll be able to update you guys as we get through the week. Dave Njoku came out of the game with a knee injury. Don't have a ton of updates there. Again, we'll see how he comes through. Obviously very proud of him for pushing through that hamstring injury. I think it says a lot about Dave and his ability to do that. Watching the tape, obviously feel very similar to how we felt after the game. We just put ourselves in a hole early and struggled to dig ourselves out of that. But you have to look at the things that we did early in that ball game to put ourselves behind, and those are the things that we're addressing today. But with that, I'll take any questions.
Kevin, this isn't the first time you've been asked about Judy not getting the ball enough, and you've always responded, yes, we have to get him the ball. My question is that inability to get the receiver a ball more a function of game planning, play calling, or quarterback decision making?
Well, I think it's a combination of all of those things, Tony. When you're talking about any type of target, it's our job as coaches to put together a game plan where, your best players are obviously the primary, but then you have to go with what the defense does. That's the other piece of it, I think, Tony, that you have to, when you're coaching the quarterbacks, make sure they understand that the ball goes where the ball goes, dictated by coverage. Obviously, there's things that we do and we'll always continue to do to try to get our guys open. And certainly it's no secret that Jerry is a huge, huge part of our offense. So it goes without saying that we want him to touch the ball more.
Okay. And just to ask you again about DTR, if he is healthy this week, he will start against Miami?
Yes.
Kevin, just wondering if for some reason Dorian isn't healthy, who are you kind of getting ready to start against the Dolphins? Would that be Bailey, or would you go back to Jameis?
I think it's probably premature to we will work through that. Mary Kay, I say that just because I got to see how Jameis comes through with his shoulder injury as well. So we have to see how all of that shakes out this week.
Hey, Kevin, on that DTR calf, yesterday after the game, you thought you expected him to be okay by Sunday. He said he was going to do everything. Has anything changed, or are you still optimistic he'll be the guy Sunday?
Yeah, he played through it the whole time. So, give the kid credit for that because that happened on the first couple plays. But like anything, like any injury, you just have to be careful and make sure that you treat it. But yeah, of course, hopeful. Yes.
Okay. And then with him, what can he do better inside the pocket to avoid some of those sacks and some of those pressures that he faced yesterday?
Yeah, I think it's always a combination of things, Scott. We have to, number one, you need to put yourself in a position where you don't have to drop back as often as we have. That's one piece of it. But also, it always is a combination of quarterbacks moving within the pocket, having the correct depth in the pocket, the line setting, the depth of the pocket, and the width. So everybody has to work together in that regard.
Yeah, Kevin, DTR didn't have any passing yards, or net passing yards, I should say, there in that first half, but he seemed to kind of get on a little bit of a roll there in the third quarter. Just what did you see from him coming out of the locker room, and how can he build on that from a developmental standpoint in these next couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think we played better as a football team in the second half there. Darryl obviously made some plays there with Dorian with his feet. First and foremost, I thought he did a nice job of gaining some first downs with his feet, and then did a nice job spreading the ball around to our guys when those opportunities presented themselves.
And we've talked so much about the turnovers these last 2 years. You even mentioned, the 37 you had a year ago. You're up to 30 this year. How do you, as you wind this season down, I guess, evaluate how you guys as coaches can, work on that more in practice, or change how you work on it, or whatnot, so you can slow those down come 2025?
Yeah, I think I understand the question. I think big picture, I'll save the reflections, if you will. as you can imagine, you're constantly coaching ball security when it comes to the offense, and that can be as simple as technique from center quarterback exchange to the quarterback handing the ball to the running back to quarterback's decision making. Really, it factors into so many of those things because we know how important that is when you're talking about winning and losing. So, but in terms of the big picture, Daryl, I'd say I'd save some of those thoughts for until after the season.
Hey, Kevin, just a few quick ones then. So do you think David's going to try to play against Miami, or are you ruling him out?
No, not ruling him out. I don't have all the information yet, just yet, Ashley. I'll update you guys when appropriate. As you can imagine, if he can play, he'll play.
And then what about Said again and ruling him out? And do you guys expect him to practice this week, or how's he coming through the protocol?
Yeah, still making his way through the protocol, and we'll be obviously patient with this and make sure he's accomplishing all the appropriate steps. But we'll see how it goes.
Hey, Kevin, I know that Dustin Hopkins has a process and he kind of sticks to it, stays confident in that. Is there at any point, though, where you see some of those struggles and you want to maybe insert a different process, kind of have him switch it up, have him try something new, or do you kind of let that process play out despite that?
Well, I think to your question, Cam, I think we have to work through it. I think it's something that he's continuing to work through. Obviously wants to get his technique back down to where he feels really good about it. And we'll just work through it is really the bottom line.
Yeah, Kevin, just wondering, I'm not sure if you said this already or not, but is Dave having an MRI today?
Yes, but I don't have all the information yet on the injury.
Okay. And then the other question is, in the event that Bailey has to start, or if not, maybe serve as the backup again, what have you seen in him in his short time here to show you that he could go in there and function well?
Yeah, we have confidence in all of our guys. Mary Kay, I think Bailey has done a nice job since he's gotten here picking up the system. I think he probably had the system down after about a day. Very intelligent. And then there's some similarities to what he was doing when he was in New England this summer. So really understands what we have to do. He's done a nice job in practice. So, but we'll see where this week takes us.
Hey, Kevin, I know we see Miles do a bunch of, freak stuff, but did you get a good view of him chasing down Burrow toward your guys' sideline yesterday? And did that it looked different to me, the speed he was using in that effort to get to him?
Yeah, I obviously had a good view of that when it happened live, and then had a good view of it just watching the tape. And listen, that's a unbelievable effort play to run him down, to contact him inbounds, versus a player that we know is very, very elusive. So that's when we're at our best. That's our defense flying around the field.
And then the Mahmoud, when he got the neutral zone when they were at the one, looked like he objected. Did he go offside? And if so, how frustrating? Because obviously that's what they were trying to do, is get him to jump offside.
Listen, Mahmoud is a young player. He's a very, very smart player. That was not his best play. That's not indicative of the type of player he is, and he will learn from that. And honestly, our entire team will learn from that.
Thanks, Jordan. Hey, Kevin, and I apologize if you were asked about this yesterday. On Friday, Miles talked about not wanting to go through a rebuild again here. And, I know you don't want to share any conversations you've had with him personally, but can you appreciate his frustration? And I know you would probably always encourage your players to speak their minds when they have the opportunity.
Yeah, like you said, Tom, any conversations I'd keep with our guys, and I have a lot of conversations with our guys. So they know that they can share their opinions with me, and it'll always be that way. Obviously, Miles, all of our guys are extremely competitive, and they want to obviously win these games. We want to win this one versus Miami. That's our focus.
All right, Kevin, that was Ken Dorsey's first game calling plays for Dorian. What is the natural growth process between play caller and a brand new quarterback? Should we expect that to be good right off the bat?
I think it always is dependent on so many things, Tony. I think we can play better as a team. We can play better as an offense starting this week. There's things that I know we can improve upon. Obviously, when you have a young quarterback out there for the first time this season as a starter, you're learning about him with every rep. You're learning about him with every rep at practice as well. So we'll take all those learnings and apply them as we move forward.
And my other question about DTR is all of us on the outside of the building have our own opinion. on DTR. Do you personally know what his ceiling is in the NFL?
I think with any young player, I would tell you, Tony, that's always a something that you're looking towards achieving with your guys. Young players need reps to get better. I see a young player in his second year that's getting better with reps.
Yeah, Kevin, given Dorian's calf injury and Jameis's shoulder injury, would you maybe try to have him run a little bit less, both on, RPOs and different things like that, and just scrambling around and putting himself kind of in harm's way, the way he sometimes does?
I would say it's early, Mary Kay, just to see how he progresses through this week and with this injury. Like I said, he played the entire game with this injury, so we'll just see how he progresses.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, back for another season from your favorite four-legged companion is year 3 of Barking Backers, presented by Milkbone, the fan club for dogs. View membership options and join today at barkingbackers.com. We'll take a look at the NFL playoff picture with 2 weeks and 1 game remaining. That's coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Hey, it's your Uncle Bo here for my friends at Jim Beam. This year, to celebrate Friendsmas, Jim Beam wants to share a little cheer. You purchase a bottle of any Jim Beam family brands, receive a $10 rebate to use towards your holiday festivities. Whether you're getting together with friends at your favorite bar, buying ingredients for cocktails at home, or visiting the Jim Beam Friendsmas shop, Jim Beam is here to help you have the best Friendsmas ever. Visit JimBeamFriendsmasRebate.com to learn more and redeem your $10 at Jim Beam. Jim Beam, Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Copyright 2024, James B. Beam Distilling Company, Claremont, Kentucky. Drink smart. Quick look at the NFC playoff picture. It was shaken up bigly by the loss of Jalen Hurts in the Philly game as they end up losing to Washington. The other big development here is Michael Penix looked pretty dang good, quarterback in Atlanta.
Well, and their defense scored twice in that game, and the Giants looked woefully incompetent in that. I think the big development is actually Tampa Bay losing to Dallas.
Crazy.
That is a massive, massive, massive loss in that one. Penix definitely can sling the ball a little bit, 18 to 27, 202. Did throw a pick, not his fault though. That was off Kyle Pitts' hands.
The PFF guys were really high on his
performance.
On his performance, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he looked good, and the Giants are woefully incompetent right now. But Tampa Bay to lose to Dallas, that is a big, big, big loss.
The Jalen Hurts issue, I mean, because there was a time you thought, okay, they may end up getting the bye in the 1 seed, and he goes out early with a concussion, and then that changed everything. Pickett's in there, and that's an incredible step back from Hurts. So the way it shakes down right now, Detroit is the one. They responded as we knew that they would, 34-17. Philly right now is the 2. Just ram it is the 3. Atlanta is now back in with Penix. They're the 4. Minnesota is 13-2 for crying out loud.
Yeah, and
they are the 5.
They play Detroit in Week 18.
So that could be the bye.
So they host Green Bay.
They play Green Bay. The NFL just announced they're moving games Sunday.
Oh, really?
Dallas Philly's been moved up to 1 o'clock because it was just us and them at 4 in the 4 o'clock window. Green Bay and Minnesota now at 4:25 on Fox. We're on CBS. And I'm pretty sure at 4 o'clock, only in Cleveland and Miami can you watch that game.
Yeah, I bet so. Washington in as the 7. So this is going to just come down to, right now the Rams have a 1-game lead on Seattle for the division. The winner there will be in, the loser will be out. And then Tampa Bay, just an incredible loss because they do not have the tiebreakers with Atlanta.
Nope.
Atlanta has beaten them already twice.
Yep. And now Atlanta controls its own destiny. But Atlanta has a tougher go of it, certainly, than does the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs, home Carolina, home New Orleans. Now, Carolina almost beat them last time. Atlanta is at Washington, home Carolina. So they are going to have to beat Washington in Washington Sunday Night Football this weekend if they want to get in. I don't think anybody's getting in. I think it's either Tampa or Seattle are only getting in by winning their division. The Rams play Arizona at home, Seattle at home. Seattle is at Chicago at the Rams.
So last week that Rams.
So Rams.
Think about that.
Rams Seattle's got a lot of juice in the last week. Detroit, Minnesota could be for the number 1 seed in the last week. Minnesota has a tough final 2. They go Green Bay at home at Detroit. Detroit's at San Francisco, who's reeling, home for Minnesota. Philly is home Dallas, home the Giants. And then Washington's got Atlanta at home, and then they must have Philly in the final.
Gotta have Philly.
No, Philly's got the Giants there. So maybe they don't play
in Dallas.
Do they not play? Yeah, they get at Dallas. They have Atlanta at home at Dallas.
That'll be the matchup of the guys who finished first and second last year in the Heisman when Atlanta and Washington battle.
Yep.
Boost your game day this season with the Ballybet Sportsbook app. Place your first bet at $25 or more. You get $150 back in bonus bets. Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. The Joe Thomas half hour of the program is coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. If a car, truck, or motorcycle accident caused you injury, call the injury lawyers at 1-800-ELK-OHIO for a free case review. Elk & Elk, proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Time for the Joe Thomas half hour of the program. The Hoff joins us for the next 30 on the Twisted Tea Hotline, brought to you by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. All right, so we are a college football Hall of Famer. We are a pro football Hall of Famer. We have coached in Germany. We've been on a game show with The Rock, where he could not believe your athleticism. And yet tonight,
oh baby,
you will also do something that I have to imagine was pretty hard to wrap around the head of a young Joe Thomas, and that is you are going to call an NFL game at Lambeau. How does that all sit?
Yeah, baby, and I get to do it with my partner Kevin Harlan, one of the legends in sports play-by-play media, so it's going to be a lot of fun. I think walking into that stadium is always special. Even if you didn't grow up in Wisconsin, talking to players throughout the league, they always talk about playing in Lambeau Field as one of the more special places that you get to play. History that goes into it, and the fact that it feels like you're playing in a college stadium. You go through basically a tiny little neighborhood, and all of a sudden, bam! Lambeau Field right in front of your face. People are parking in everybody's front yard, and you walk into the stadium. My dad and my son get to go to the game tonight with me. A little sideline passes. Jack doesn't know about that yet. It's a little Christmas surprise for him. So, yeah, it's going to be a great night.
That's awesome, Hoff, and certainly very, very well deserved. When you're saying, so you're on your way now. It sounds like we're en route. We're en route right now.
Yeah, we're en route right now, driving through a couple inches of snow here, as you'd expect, driving through Wisconsin, going up to Titletown there in Lambeau.
So you're on the way, and then Jack's coming later?
Yeah, my dad's going to come up, pick him up, and then they're going down. Because as you know, being a big B media guy there, Nathan, you got to get there a little early for shaking hands and kissing babies on the sideline, doing pregame stuff. So I'll be there a little bit earlier, and then Jack and my dad will come a couple hours after.
3 generations on the sidelines at Lambeau. That's pretty special. Make sure you get a picture, Huff. Make sure that you get somebody to take a picture of the 3 of you.
Yeah.
I'm going to set a reminder on my phone, a.k.a. text Nathan to text me. You can be my personal assistant.
Hey,
don't forget, take a picture with your son and your dad.
I will. I'll send one at some point tonight for sure, just to look out for you. Huff, unfortunately, you had the, I wouldn't say privilege, but you had the reality of being in situations like the Browns currently find themselves at various points throughout your career. It's just right now, it's every week. It's the turnovers. It's the self-inflicted wounds. It really has been that way all season. We've seen it. The Browns, number 2 in turnovers for the season, number 1 over the second half of the season. They're, top 7 in penalties, number 1 in pre-snap penalties. What causes that to be a week-in, week-out problem, and how does that get fixed?
Well, when you're coaching in the NFL, they say you can't focus on everything, right? If you coach them to do everything, you're going to get nothing. So you got to focus on one thing or the next. And I think obviously penalties, missed assignments, those type of mental errors have been killing us, right?
Yep.
And I think Kevin Stefanski and company have probably been emphasizing other things, right? They've been emphasizing, I think, maybe more of the schematic details of, hey, you got to line up here, you got to be here, you got to get this leverage on this player, because for whatever reason, they felt like that was more important in that moment. And I think maybe it's a reflection of where some of the players are on this team. You've got guys that are veterans that know exactly what they're doing. You can kind of focus in on different things, and you don't have to go to the basics on a lot of this stuff. And so maybe part of it is offensively potentially bringing in a new scheme and trying to blend some of Ken Dorsey's stuff coming in from Buffalo, trying to introduce some of the gun runs and the gun play action things. And so when you've got some new stuff that you're putting in on offense, you're trying to figure out, all right, this is where you line up. These are the basics of these plays. And as you layer those things on, then you can kind of turn your focus away from basically just installing what are all the addendums we have to make when the defense changes these things. And so I think some of those things potentially got overlooked. Look, when Eric Mangini was here in 2009 and 10, I think, we were great. We never had any penalties. Like, we never had any self-inflicted wounds, but we weren't very good football players because that's all he focused on, right? It came from New England, where it was Bill Belichick, and he harped on penalties and turnovers, and so we really didn't make those type of mistakes, but we focused so much on that we didn't really execute very well on the offense. And so I think it's part of it's who you got installing a new offense and what you have opportunity to emphasize. And I'm sure at the end of the season, Kevin and company are going to go back and look and say, hey, you know what, even though it may hurt installing some of the schematic stuff, installing some of the details of what we want to do each week from a game plan standpoint, we just need to harp on the basics of don't make penalties, know where you got to line up, and eliminate self-inflicted wounds, because that'll kill you faster than anything else.
If you've been in a situation similar to Miles, where you've been in your prime and you look around and you go, this is a roster I don't know about. I read his comments Friday and again post-game Sunday is like, man, I just really want to win. And I just want to know what the plan is going forward. I didn't read it as anything more than that. He picks up sack number 100 Sunday as well, which means he's the youngest to ever get to 100 sacks. So a big moment there. How did you know him well? How did you read his comments Friday and Sunday?
Well, first of all, I think you have to view it through the lens of this is a tough season, and when you're dealing with a tough season, you don't have as many fun things to talk about. And so when players make comments, especially your most important players like a Myles Garrett, right, they get dissected a little bit more than in a normal situation. With that said, I think it was probably 60-40. I think it was 60% him just saying, look, I want to win. Like, that is the most important thing for me. And if this is not going to be a win now situation, then I don't want to be part of it. Like, the home stretch of his career, however long he wants to play, he wants to be on a winning team. Look, good for him. Like, yes, I think we all do. And I think he's just holding everybody's feet to the fire a little bit and saying, I don't want to be here if the goal is not year in and year out to win. If this is a tear-down rebuild like it was when he got here in 2017, he's not interested in being part of a rebuild, which I get it. I think that's a noble thing for him to say. But I think 40% was probably him reflecting because of reaching that 100-sack milestone, the youngest person to ever do that, fourth fastest of all time, tied with Bruce Smith. Excuse me, still got a little tickle in my throat from last weekend. I think he's had a chance to reflect on his legacy a little bit, and when guys reach that stage in their career when they feel like they've done a lot and they're probably knocking on the door of the Hall of Fame, they do start thinking about legacy. And for pass rushers, it's sacks. You know, sacks, all pros, those are the things that separate yourself at the top of the list of the all-time greats. And so I think some of that reflection probably led him, whereas earlier in the season or earlier in his career, he probably wouldn't have maybe made any public comments. I think it led him to feel confident and feel needed where he had to say something about, hey, look, guys, my legacy is important to me. I want to win now. I want to win the last part of my career because, one, it's what being an NFL player is all about, winning championships. And then two, it's like it's going to be hard for him to reach the pinnacle, the potential of his legacy with the ability that he has unless he's on it's going to be really hard for him to reach that unless he's on a team that's winning games, because you got to be winning games in the fourth quarter to get one-on-ones, to get opportunities to affect the quarterback, to sack the quarterback. And I think that's really important for him.
Yeah. Well, he said, he also joined Lawrence Taylor as the only two players to have 5 straight 12-sack seasons. And he said that that's great honor. But he said the reason we all remember Lawrence Taylor is because he won Super Bowls, because he won.
Yeah.
And you can tell that is eating at Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's career right now is, 2 playoff appearances and 1 playoff win. And he wants more, and understandably so. And I think that's why this Browns offseason is so important and could go in so many different directions coming off of this, which was, obviously an incredibly disappointing season that fell so short of expectations.
Yeah, and look, guys, numbers matter, right? Your sacks matter, all pros, things like that. But it's the individual highlights, the moments that we remember, that are the things that stick with fans, that stick with not only Browns fans, but Hall of Fame voters. It sticks with NFL fans. It's those moments where you get the sack when the game is on the line. When I was a kid, I was a huge Green Bay Packer fan, and to this day, when I think of Reggie White, one of the greatest of all time, regardless of position, I think of the sacks that he had in the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots to seal the game and win the game. Unless you have that opportunity to have those moments, it's cool to have 200 sacks, but unless Miles is doing great things and having those moments in Super Bowls or playoff games, you're not going to remember it as much.
Yep.
There's a reason that when you go to Canton, pretty much everybody on the 70s Steelers is
I was going to say the 70s Steelers. They're all in.
They're all in. Like, you would have, everybody's in. It's the winning. If there's a tiebreaker, it's the winning. Winning is the tiebreaker, and it's synonymous with greatness. And it's weird because in this sport, and Hoff, you can attest to this, you can be as great individually as has ever walked the planet, but you're 1/11th. And unless you're the quarterback and you touch the ball every play, every other position, it takes a village to lift everybody up.
That's right. That's right. And I think his Hall of Fame candidacy is pretty much etched in stone at this point. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, but I think when you think back, once you're in the Hall of Fame, Deion Sanders talked about it a little bit in the last few years, like first ballot is important. It's meaningful to people. And then how you stack up amongst your peers. Look, part of being a competitor is you're always comparing yourself against the guys at your position. How do I stack up, right? And I'm sure for Miles, he wants to be number one. He wants to go down as everybody's, without a doubt, greatest pass rusher, greatest edge player in modern history. And to be able to do that, you got to do it in big moments. And he wants those big moments. I can't blame him.
I always talk about in the Hall of Fame, right? It's are you in? And I think there's the Hall of Fame, then there should be a section where they make it cool, look like a little mini stadium, and then you have the bus in there. Are you in the greatest game that was ever played?
Yeah.
That's right.
And then people cycle in and out of that as things change and all of that. But would you be in, and you could make it, 2 full rosters, right? You could make it 2 deep on offense, 2 deep on defense, so you'd have like a starting offense, starting defense for both teams.
Yeah.
And if you're in that game, that's the goal, right? So are you one of the 4 best ever? Are you on the Mount Rushmore of your particular position?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, I think there's a lot of legacy that, and as you said earlier today, I think you were talking with Mo Pedman, it's different for an offensive lineman than it is for a defensive lineman. Like, you're in that game, even though you didn't have the opportunity to play in some of those moments that you would want. But I really think you're right with a defensive player. Like, they have to make the big play in a big moment in a big playoff game, all of that to really kind of propel them up.
That's right. As an offensive lineman, if anything, if I'm on a bad team, it makes my job harder. And you get more respect because you're sitting back there in the 2-minute drill for the whole second half.
Yep.
The quarterback is standing there, and he's chucking the ball down the field every play, and you're going one-on-one against their best pass rusher. Who doesn't care about the run anymore, right? My job's harder. And so the people that know the game, that watch, they understand that. But for Miles, he needs to have those moments where he's going one-on-one against a great tackle in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl, to be able to get the respect that I think he definitely deserves. I said it on social media a few weeks ago. I said, give me one pass rush against any player in history, the last guy I would choose is Myles Garrett, because for one rep at his best, nobody's better. But people won't respect that unless he's able to play in those big moments. And look, if it was only about winning a Super Bowl, if that was the only thing that mattered to players, Brady wouldn't have kept playing. Dude had a ton of Super Bowls, but he kept playing in New England, and then he even wanted to keep playing after that. Go to Tampa to win more Super Bowls. So, yes, it's about winning every season and winning that Super Bowl, but legacy matters for these dudes who are among the greatest of all time, and they want their moments to be able to set their place in history, to be able to set their place where they stack up against all of the greats, not just in their generation, but in the generation of all time.
I think Brady wanted to track down Manning on everything.
Yep.
I think he wanted the yards, the touchdowns, all of it. He wanted to track down Manning, and I think I'm with you, Hoff. Sure, yeah, everyone wants to win, but I think there's no question that was it. That he wanted to leave no doubt, and he did. He ended up doing all of those things. All right, real quickly around this last weekend in the NFL, we had a very interesting Saturday with the Chiefs taking care of the Texans. Horrific injury to Tank Dell in that one, and then you had the Ravens really taking care of the Steelers, 34-17. Russ with a pick in that one. He also had a fumble where he's scrambling and just kind of looked like he almost ran into the hit. Hoff, what did you make of those two? And Kansas City now, they had to make sure they have a one-game lead over Buffalo, and obviously they're in a position now to make sure they do that.
You know, we did the let's pick our 10 Super Bowl favorites last week on the Wednesday show that I was there, and I hope you guys hang on to that because I was pretty good, at least through 1 week. The list that I put together has held up pretty good, and I think, you know, Green Bay doesn't really face much of a challenge tonight against the Saints as their 2 touchdown favorites. But I think the Chiefs are starting to hit their stride. You know, they're playing good ball. They're starting to win by a few more points. I think the Texans, they've got too many injuries, and then the Tank Dell injury, it hurts them even further. And the Steelers, they don't have any one thing that I would say is their superpower. I think they're very balanced. They're very well coached. But I don't think that you can make a great run in the Super Bowl by just being balanced. Like, I think you have to have some superpower that can rise up when the game's close. And I think Russell Wilson's still a good quarterback, but I don't know if he's good enough to go toe-to-toe with Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. And so I think the AFC is shaping up to be really interesting, with the Ravens kind of figuring out defense just a little bit. Lamar Jackson putting himself back into that MVP conversation, especially after Josh Allen didn't have the best of games against the New England Patriots. So it's a fun run here as we're coming down the home stretch of the regular season.
That division is likely, when the season ends, to have 3 12-win teams: Detroit, Green Bay, and Minnesota. Detroit could determine the number 1 seed in the NFC. I mean, when is the last time that anybody can remember that kind of performance in a single division? It's really incredible.
Yeah, it's interesting as I'm getting ready for this Packers game. You know, they could have 13 wins and be like the 5th, 6th, or 7th seed, just because, you know, they're going to be the second wild card team potentially behind either Detroit or Minnesota. And it's just crazy to think how good the NFC North is and potentially how good they could be for a while, because they're pretty stacked. Like, these are teams that have overwhelmingly fairly young rosters. They're very, very well balanced. They got quarterbacks that are either locked up long-term like Jordan Love, or they're not breaking the bank like Jared Goff, Sam Darnold. So the NFC North has an opportunity potentially to go on quite a run here.
Yeah, they really, it sets up that way, and it's going to be what could be pretty dang remarkable, fellas. If we hold next week, and Detroit is 14-2, hosting, isn't it Minnesota at Detroit? 14-2 Minnesota.
It is Minnesota at Detroit. Yep.
So 14-2 hosting 14-2 in week 18 for the 1 seed.
Man.
Oh, wow.
That's wild.
Think about that. I mean, 14-2 in old years, you're the one. Forget about it. No one's in the mix.
Yep.
One of them's going to go. They're both 14-2 if they both win next week, and they're expected to.
Detroit at Niners, Minnesota home for Green Bay. Tough game. Minnesota's finals too is tough. That is a tough stretch.
But they just win, man.
Yep.
That was a big time win for them yesterday, winning at Seattle the way they did.
Well, especially the way they had to come back. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. No, it's crazy, and also some pretty wild injuries. The Jalen Hurts concussion that happened yesterday, big, and then Penix getting to play for Atlanta. The stats don't maybe do justice to as well as he played, but now that sets up. And then the loss for Tampa Bay, Hoff, to lose at Dallas. That's as bad as it's going to get.
Yeah, that's not so good. I mean, the NFC South has probably been the weakest division in football all season long, but the Buccaneers, I think they had a lot of believers, including myself, not necessarily that they were going to be a team that could, win the Super Bowl, but they had a great running game, good defense, Baker Mayfield playing well. But you got to win the ones you're supposed to win when it's down the stretch. You got to be hot as you hit the playoffs to really have any belief in the building. And that one really could be the dagger, the nail in the coffin of their Super Bowl chances, because I don't know how you get your team to buy into a belief that you guys can make a run when you play the way you did on national television there against a team that had seemingly given up on the season about 5 weeks ago.
Well, whoever wins that division is going to play Detroit or Minnesota.
Yep. Good luck.
That's a tough opening. That's a tough opener.
All right, fellas. In honor of Christmas, which is 2 days from today, what was your favorite sports-themed gift you ever received? Hoff, we'll start with you, and then Dr. Z.
It's funny because I was never a hockey player organizationally, like from a serious standpoint, but I love playing street hockey, and so I got a hockey net and a goalie stick when I was like 10 years old, and I was so happy because it was one of those presents Mom couldn't wrap. So you came downstairs, can't wait to see what Santa brings you, and the hockey net is just sitting right there. And I think in that moment just brought me so much great joy because I could just see that the next 6 months of my life there's going to be outside like 6 hours a day with my neighbor Nicky Hamill just firing slap shots right at my face. I was like Happy Gilmore. I could not wait to get hit right in the head and get a concussion.
Hoff as a defenseman would have been terrifying.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. That would have been, jeez. NHL ain't built for the guys like Hoff on skates.
No.
That would have been outrageous.
Murdering
What about
people.
you?
I was thinking sports-themed. I was really trying to think about it. So actually, something just popped in my head that is the absolute answer. But before that, I was thinking, I remember when Nerf came out with that one that had like the little things on the side, so when he threw like a spiral through a bomb, it whistled.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. But then I just remembered definitely the best sports-themed Christmas gift I ever got was a Rawlings big stick that was to Nathan, Merry Christmas, Mark McGuire. A Mark McGuire Rawlings big stick.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, signed by McGuire.
Blessed.
Oh, man. Hashtag blessed. Yeah, still have it. Still have it.
Well done.
There was there used to be a store called Sears, and when we were kids, there was a magazine that would come.
The Sears catalog.
It was the Sears Christmas catalog, and it had everything in it, everything that Sears had. And when that thing showed up, I'd look at it in wonderment that you could buy anything that you wanted at this magical store. And on one page, they had every NFL team Hutch uniform set.
Oh, love it.
So like, I never saw any of that stuff. Like, you could only get, like where I grew up, you could get the Broncos or you could get the Seahawks or the Vikings. That was it. Those are the three teams you could get gear from where I grew up. But in that, you could get anything. And I remember looking at it. I was a Bears fan as a kid, but I remember looking at the Dan Fouts Chargers uniform in the bright blue and thinking, God, that
gorgeous.
Looks great. That looks great. And I circled that sucker for Santa, and I said, that's it. That's what I want. And when I walked out and I saw that sucker sitting there, come on. I didn't take that off for the whole Christmas break. I left that sucker on the whole time.
The
Pants,
best.
jersey, helmet, the whole thing.
The Hutch.
I don't even think they make that stuff anymore.
No, those were so good.
So good. So good. All right, Hoff, enjoy it. This is an unbelievable one tonight. I mean, Harlan being a Wisconsin guy, a legend, you there, 3 generations of Thomases. This is unbelievable. Enjoy that, buddy. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Yes, love you, Hoff.
Hey, Merry Christmas, guys. I love you guys, too. I appreciate having me on.
The great Hoff en route.
The dulcet tones tonight filling our ears. It's going to be glorious.
Can't wait to listen. Harlan's
Harlan's great.
An all-timer. He'd be on my personal route, Mount Rushmore play-by-play guy. I think he's awesome. And as a Wisconsinite, come on.
Baby.
That's beautiful. All right, coming up next, we'll take a look at the AFC playoff picture. Myles Garrett's 100th sack in your great clip as well. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Browns fans, check out Vivid Seats, official fan experience packages to the season's home games. You purchase seats in the Vivid Seats Terrace experience. You also sort pregame field passes, all-inclusive food and beverage and more. Visit vividseats.com today to learn more. Time for the Great Clips, great clip of the game. Great clips, it's going to be great. Here is the call of Miles' sack, number 100.
And now they go hurry up from the Browns 37. Burrow to throw. Here comes Garrett. There it is. Myles Garrett. Welcome to the 100 Club. He takes down Joe Burrow. 100 career sacks for the future Hall of Famer.
He set the Browns record against Bailey Zappi, now his teammate. And how fitting. Joe Burrow, man, he is harassed throughout his career. 13 sacks now against the Bengals. Myles Garrett, the first to get to 100 sacks before his 29th birthday with not a week to spare, Andrew. Unbelievable.
An early birthday present, an early Christmas present for Myles Garrett. It's a loss of 8.
You know what's really starting to set these great clips of the week apart is the context.
Painting the whole picture.
They used to just be just like, here's what happened. And now we're getting, I believe the technical term is a little bit of color.
Yeah.
And it's a game changer.
It's weird that Gibbe looks disgusted as you say this, which you're speaking the truth, and Gibbe's furious with you.
I mean, the analysis is the analysis. He had a sack. It was number 100. That's a big moment. But let's not let the analysis be bigger than the moment.
I believe that was a perfect call around the way there. It seems like, if anything, your boy Gabriel is going against your wishes.
Young Gabriel has chosen the side of goodness and light.
What is consecrated here?
Yes. I asked young Gabriel last week when it was in the balance.
He knew it.
He knew what?
I said, "What's that all from?"
Of course he knows that. He's come to the learning tree.
Hey, that was not always a guarantee.
He's come to the learning tree. G-Man there was a fork in the road about a week ago, and G-Man stood and he looked left and he looked right. And I asked him quite simply, do you believe in goodness or badness? And he said, I want to be good. And now he's walking that path with the big B's.
Hey, do you have a grievance as well?
Oh, I do have a grievance. So earlier today, I was the victim of a prank.
Okay.
Which is fine. I enjoy a good prank.
Yeah, it's fine.
My grievance has nothing to do with the prank or the prank itself. However, when I found out about the prank, I didn't know it was a prank at the time. And when I found out what was told to me, I called Gibbe to be like, dude, you'll never believe what just happened. And I was like, I'm not doing it. Like, hard no. Not doing it. Now, I said some other things as well. Yeah. Gibbe was in on this. So when I called Gibbe answered the phone and put me without any warning or any knowledge of who may or may not have been in the room at the time. He put me on speakerphone while I aired my grievances.
Oh, my God.
Which is not okay.
That is a fail.
Hold on
what? That is not okay, dude. That's not okay. I could have said anything and would have been within my right to do it, and that could have been much worse than it ended up.
It was the G-Man and Jordan.
Wasn't Fila there?
No.
Okay.
Fila was in the other room.
Well, that's not too bad. I thought maybe there were luminaries.
He makes it sound like I put it on for the world. And as I told him, number 2, there was a hand like, oh, hey, and we're back.
In my opinion,
in no way, shape, or form would I ever put him in that position.
You can't possibly know what I was going to say, though. You can't. You couldn't.
It could have been.
You were worked into an amazing shoot. It was unbelievable.
It really wasn't that all worked up
about
it. If Fila had
just told Ricky to continue it, if you would have actually stopped and thought about the request that was being made, you would have realized there was no way in hell that was actually happening.
Yeah, my response was, I'm not doing it. Not negotiable. Period. That's it.
Did it have something to do with one of the next 2 holidays?
It did.
You're darn right.
It had to do with me coming in to shoot a 10-minute video because it could only be done at that time on Christmas,
now, Bo,
and I was like, not happening.
Let's think about this. I'm not doing that. Who's working?
I don't know.
I bet we're having a practice.
I will say,
I bet we're having a practice.
At no point would that have ever happened on Christmas Day.
I will say that this is a human. This is a man who at one point left and had to return. Was there no audio? Didn't we have a no audio situation where you were like home and had to come back?
Oh yeah, that happened.
That happened. So there've been some discrepancies, but yeah, say Christmas Day, come shoot a 10-minute video. It's the only time we can do it. It's a big ask.
Yes, and it was based on another person's availability. It was a whole
your Father
setup.
Christmas.
Yeah. By the way, my mom just texted me, Gibbe is such a Scrooge. Nailed it.
If I could have recorded it, I thought Gabe was going to chew his arm off. He was laughing.
Where's
so
the
hard
G-Man? Get G-Man on camera. I need to see him.
Jordan has literally got his head in his hands in the ground. He is crying. He's laughing so hard. The three of us are dying, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what to tell you.
All I said, unfortunately, I was like, listen, somebody asked me something that was so ridiculous.
Go
and
down
I just
a
said,
road that was
not happening.
Right.
I'm like, no,
this ain't happening.
Not happening. No problem saying no to this. Not happening.
Oh, that's
except that it was way over the top. No.
It wasn't that over the top.
Worked into a complete shoot.
Well, the request was over the top. And it was just like, no, not doing it. No.
I don't believe I will be doing that.
No. There's a lot that I'll do. I was going to I made many accommodations to make it happen, what they wanted, but I wasn't doing it then. No way. Buddy the Elf is locked in on Christmas. I am locked in on Christmas. I can't wait. G-Man secretly told me that he felt it was bad that they were doing this to me. It was a little out of bounds.
Felt bad.
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
He loved every minute of it.
All right. Here's where
There's a thin line between love and hate, Gibbe.
It can go any way. Here's where we sit in the AFC with 2 weeks to go. Kansas City now still have that one game. They have a 2-game lead over Buffalo. They win one of their next two, they would be in good shape in terms of winning the AFC and having the home field. Buffalo sitting comfortably in the 2.
Comfortable.
The Steelers are currently the 3 via their tiebreaker over Baltimore. Houston is the 4, Baltimore is the 5, the Chargers the 6, and Denver the 7. Indy, Miami, Cincinnati, all 7 and 8, all on the outside looking in. Cincinnati does play Denver this week, so they could get that to a 1-game deficit. Denver plays Kansas City in the finale. So depending on who does Kansas City have this week? Steelers.
Kansas City plays Steelers in Kansas City.
Okay.
I mean, in Pittsburgh, and then the Steelers play Cincinnati where? In Week 18.
In Cincinnati, I believe.
Against Pittsburgh.
I think. Yeah. So if Kansas City beats Pittsburgh this week, then
Pittsburgh still controls their destiny.
They do. They currently have the tiebreaker over Baltimore. But if Kansas City beats Pittsburgh, then Kansas City will clinch the number 1 overall seed.
So Pittsburgh controls their own destiny, but if they both go 1-1 and Pittsburgh loses to Cincinnati and the Baltimore's one win is they beat Cleveland, then Baltimore would have a better division record and would get in.
Is that fact, or are you saying that emphatically?
No, that's fact, because they have the same division record right now. And they each play one more division game.
So that would net them the 3, which would right now obviously the 3 always plays the 6, so that would be right now it would be Pittsburgh hosting the Chargers, Buffalo would host Denver, and Houston would host Baltimore.
Yeah.
If it started right now.
That's gonna be very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's so Cincinnati needs to win out. Miami's got us and then Buffalo.
Miami has us and then at the Jets.
Oh, Jets.
At Cleveland, at the Jets. Cincinnati's Denver and Pittsburgh. And you said Week 18. Let me just verify that. Is it at home? Week 18 it's in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So Cincinnati is home Denver, at Pittsburgh. Peepaw Pittsburgh is home Kansas City and home Cincinnati. So they have 2 home games left.
And then Indy is still kind of in the mix of they have the tiebreakers over Miami and Cincinnati.
And they are
out. It's theirs is really navigable.
Yeah, at the Giants, home Jacksonville.
So that's
So I don't see how Cincinnati's still alive.
It's a 10%. They need Miami and Indy to lose again, one of their last 2. So they need Miami to lose to either us or the Jets, Indy to lose to either the Giants or the Jaguars. They need to win out, and then they need Denver to lose out.
And then Denver's finale.
Kansas City.
Right. So Denver doesn't have an easy final stretch here.
No, but if Kansas City beats Pittsburgh this week, they're not going to play for anything in the last week.
Right.
They'd clinch the number 1 seed, and they would chill.
So
basically, I don't think Cincinnati can get in.
By the way, though, if you're Kansas City, that's a long time to rest. Playing on a Wednesday, so it'd be 11 days, then a bye week. You wouldn't have played a game
because they play Wednesday.
You wouldn't have played a game in 25 days?
You're right.
Am I doing that math right? It's 11 to the final. Bye would be 18, and then the following week would be your first playoff game. It'd be 25 days without playing a football game.
Wow.
I don't know if you.
Yeah,
do that.
that's a long time. They'd have to think that through.
That's a long time not to play ball.
The one thing I would say, that's such a veteran group that you feel like they know their bodies and they know it well enough.
Yeah, so maybe
to kind of make that call.
Yep. And I don't believe in playing people for a half. Either you're playing them or you're not playing them.
I couldn't agree with you more. You prepare to play or you don't.
Right. A half has every bit as much of risk as the whole enchilada.
Yeah, that was a monster win for Kansas City to beat Houston, though, because win one of their next two, they're the one.
Yep.
Yeah. And Cincinnati's going to go 9-8 and miss the postseason and waste one of the greatest quarterback receiver seasons in the history of football.
Yep. You're right.
Because Chase is going to win the Triple Crown.
By the way, before we put a full bow on this thing, I just want to say that Larry David is exactly right. If you are talking to a person that you consider a friend, if you're on speakerphone, no matter what the scenario is, that needs to be communicated at the beginning of that call. Hey, you're on speakerphone. So you call in the car, and you're in a car with kids or other people.
Well, I would tell
you. Hey, you're on
Again,
speakerphone.
This was a prank.
This was entrapment.
I think I agree with you. I think Gibby did know the audience that he was with, and
fair.
It's sort of okay.
I would have never put him in a spot.
I agree. I think
I believe
at his heart.
I believe that.
While he is a Scrooge on the outside, I think he's a sweetheart in the middle.
His heart has grown 3 sizes.
It has. There's
so
no
is my
question.
stomach from Saturday night, but that's neither here nor there.
What'd you guys eat?
Oh, a little precinct, delicious.
Oh,
Nathan took us out for a little holiday festivus, and we ordered the whole left side of the menu. I'm fairly confident.
We did not order the whole left
side. With a couple orders of French fries.
Well, there were. That was that. I didn't see that coming. I did see that coming.
They know what they're doing.
Boy,
they know what they're doing at the Ruby joints.
Yes.
All right. We got a score and so much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Ken and Gerard tonight, the Cleveland Browns preview show on the University Hospital's Cleveland Browns Radio Network. Guys are going to break down all the Week 16 in the NFL, look ahead to the Browns and the Finns with play-by-play voice Andrew Siciliano. We have a score tonight, Gibby, Monday Night Football.
We do, my friend, and we go to the land of beer and cheese curds and more beer. I love every bit of it. Green Bay, Lambeau Field, Merry Christmas. Packers hosting the 5-9 New Orleans Saints. Segura.
So I don't see am I on here?
55.
I don't see a hook on what I'm looking at, so in my world, that's how I'm operating here. Go Pack,
Same.
go. Pack by 800 billion.
The Green Bay Packers are not going to lose with Kevin Harlan and Joe Thomas on the call and 3 generations of Hoffness. They're not losing.
They're not even going to let it be close.
No, they're going to bury him.
40-10.
66.
30.
Ray Nitschke.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. We are back on Thursday to get you set for the Dolphins and the Brownies. Thanks for listening, everybody. The next level is coming up next. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland.